And we're live. All right.
We are live.
Whew, I'm glad. It's like after a couple weeks in that spacesuit, I'm glad to be home. So
that's right. We sent out the
stress signal and
yeah, and the Coast Guard to get your little capsule in the water.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough. I did a free fall. I free fall from space down and parachuted in. So
yeah, you did it. The human where you have like the bodysuit that has the membrane, right? Like to the
it's like just come in. It's like it was like it was a little scary going over top of China at the moment. You know, I was swooping in over the Pacific, but the North Korea sent jets after me and stuff. That was a little scary, but it looks like we got Todd Clark in here. So
awesome. Are we streaming to YouTube right now?
Should be.
Okay, I just want to double check. I don't know why when I click on your channel it doesn't show it. There we go. No, there it is. Sometimes they used to have a title video that would come up. No, you're right. Good.
Yeah. Something's happening. Okay, there we go. So obviously, if we got people jumping in, howdy ho, everybody. So
hello, everyone.
Yeah, it's a little better than the last time because the day that we were supposed to do the last live stream, my modem decided to die and gave up the ghost. So it was a little bit of a problem. So that was last live stream. If I looked really small, I did it from my phone. So the reason is like I'm on this little phone like this, and it's like you can't read anything that's on that thing. You guys are like little dots. It was like looking at little bitty people.
That had to be weird.
Yeah. On the phone. So that's what I'm on. Is on the phone. You've been on YT. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of nice to be back. And
you're not Mr. Freeze anymore.
No, I'm not. I'm back.
You're back to the Punisher.
Yeah. I spent 3 hours on tech support trying to figure out why my modem wasn't working. And then finally they just said, I think it's bad. Well, it's not working, so obviously it's bad.
Well, we've determined that.
Yeah. So I just went out and went to our local it's like Best Buy and said, this is not working anymore. And it's like, I bought it last year. And they go, oh, that's weird. Those things are bulletproof. Well, it's got shot. Okay. So they just gave me a new one.
Good. Well, that's what should happen, an expensive modem like that. So what have you been working on? What have you been up to? I know I've seen some of your stuff, lots of orcs.
Yeah, I finished this up this week. Okay. I suppose I should
blow up your screen.
There we go. So I got that unit right there of orcs.
Nice.
Orcs. And I hand painted that banner of the.
Oh, cool. That
bull.
came out nice.
Yeah. That was the one big thing I did by myself.
Are those the Goths that usually have the bull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of went with a bull that was
Red Bull.
We'll go with that, right?
Gives you wings.
Yeah, Red Bull. Well, the whole thing is that the 34th Infantry Division, which I used to be part of, is the Red Bull.
Yeah.
So that's why I painted it. It's kind of like a little bit of honor of those guys. So
cool.
And that was when I started on the other one, the Dystopian War stuff. You've seen a couple videos if you on the channel. You've seen those pop up. I put the first coat of paint on them, and I put the first layer of gray on them. So they are probably about 40% done.
Nice.
So I figure I'll have most of the stuff. Then I'll just have to work on putting on detail, work on all the detail work. And that's the hard part about it.
For a game that's actually sort of was in limbo for a bit, whatever, you have quite a bit of a supply to paint. Like you still have a lot of stuff for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a ton of stuff that for Dystopian Wars. I have a lot of miniatures. And that I've unloaded a bunch of it, of the painted stuff I have. Mm-hmm. I've downsized a lot of my fleets. I used to be able to have fill up a half a table of just for one fleet, and I was like, well, that's probably way too much. You know, I don't. Why do I need 3 or 4 dreadnoughts? I probably just need one. So I was like, so I just started selling off at like sets of fleets and just got rid of them. Mm-hmm. Bring some money in, put it elsewhere. So we got Mel's in here. We got Striker,
and then we've got Skarnir.
Skarnir, yeah. Dwayne's here. Who else we got in here? Todd, Mel.
Nice.
Washing the grill. What are you planning on grilling yet tonight there, Mel?
So,
oh, the grill and the Lehman Russ tank. Yeah, last night, Mel and I, well, we had a little discussion about, he was trying to paint a Lehman Russ, and he has some paint from the 90s, some Games Workshop paint, and it was a little thick. Mm-hmm. So we had a little problem, but got it figured out. Engine grill and Lehman Russ tank. So that's pretty much everything that's going on around here. Mm-hmm.
What are you drinking for your musty drink tonight?
I have Tool in my door.
Nice.
Yeah. Decide a little Irish, since it is March, you know, you have to have. I was gonna have some Jameson, but I would have to crack open a brand new bottle and dig it out of the storage. So I was like,
no need.
No need. I already have some Irish whiskey that's on hand, so I'm going to use that. So that's what I got planned on.
Cool. Well, I suppose I could show some of the stuff that been working on here. I've shown some of this stuff on our channel, or I should say on the Facebook page. But today, since then, I've I kind of just so I grabbed the Hulk out, and I did actually put some glazing on his shorts just to sort of show some definition and some of the wrinkles and things. But mostly, I did this on. Let me see if I can. Yeah, this is a manual focus camera, but I mostly did it on the skin just to get some glaze in there, just to or some thin down paint just to show some definition before I put in the black ink. So there'll be a little bit of both to show definition. So that's been fun, and I painted the eyes up and the teeth just because what I've also done, what I spent most of the day today on is on the French Indian War stuff. Let's see if I can get this here. And so I showed this on the channel recently, but one of the things I did with these guys is I did all their eyes today. So that was actually quite a bit of work. See if I can even get close enough to actually show the eyes here.
I say the eyes is the hardest part of all the painting of those guys.
Yeah. Well, I did all their eyes today, which meant doing the white, then putting in the black dot, then cleaning everything up, and then putting more skin on just to clean everything up. So it was kind of like going back and forth with all of them. And so I don't even know how many eyeballs that is, but I did a fair bit of eyeballs today. Let's see here. And yeah, exactly. And back to the regular screen. For my musty drink today, I have a very cool musty beer here. Super saturation. Nice.
Flash into the 70s.
Retro can. I couldn't resist the can. Once I saw the can, honestly, I'm not typically one of those people that, goes purely on appearances, but when I saw this can and I hadn't tasted it, I was like, I have to see what that tastes like. And it is a New England Pale Ale. It is brewed locally here in Calgary, Alberta, where I live, by Cabin Brewing Company. And actually, you know what? For a local company I never had before, I'm actually kind of a fan now. I've had actually a couple of different beers now, this one and one of their IPAs, which I probably like even more than this one. This one is nice, but it's not an IPA. It's a bit milder. But I've actually enjoyed it, and I'm actually probably going to be a repeat customer now. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was my choice between that or one of my New England Pale Ales that I got sitting in the fridge.
Yep.
There's a new one that just came out that it's supposed to release tomorrow. I got to pick it up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the next time we have it, I'll be having a New England Pale Ale.
Very good. Very good. There we go. So yeah, that's about it for me. I'm actually, I'm enjoying the French and War stuff as usual, and essentially, I think I should actually be fairly through these by the weekend. I'm off this weekend. I'm thinking between finishing the bases, highlighting up the skin, and doing some washes and a couple things, and I'll be done. And that'll be really nice. It'll be, and I'll put I'll put flags on everything, them and the British too. Yeah. Looks like we got some folks. Cranky Old Wargamers joined us, and Chris, Welcome Back Games says Hulk Smash.
Oh yeah. I don't know if it's like Mountain Dew, but it's a little stronger than Mountain Dew.
What's that?
The Tool Madure.
Oh, somebody asked that if it was like Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I had a friend that's caught our show a couple times say, "Do you guys have to drink?" And he didn't say it like, kind of like, like, I was wondering whether he just meant like to be on the show, do you have to drink? But he didn't really kind of clarify. But anybody ever wants to join the show, you don't have to drink to be on the show. Yeah. We just, because we both like to have one drink, and we pretty much have one drink on the show, it's become part of our sort of routine. But many people come on the show and don't have a drink, and it's not actually at all necessary. Rusty's doing some signaling here with Battletech stuff. Oh, there we go. It means I have to have another one. Is that what it is? I barely caught that.
It's subliminal. Since I brought it up, I have to have it. Cheers, mate.
There you go. Cheers. I'll have a third. I'll drink to that.
Ah, very good. Very tasty stuff. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, Dan's in the house. All right.
Hello, Dan. Awesome. So, what do you think? Shall we get to our first topic?
Well, question: have you been playing any games lately, or?
I haven't. It's a matter of fact, I went down to my club to join with the sort of small soccer group we have forming, and it turned out that somebody couldn't make it that I was supposed to play against, so I just actually observed. I didn't even really get a game in that day, but it was fun. I don't actually mind doing that, just hanging out with friends and watching a game once in a while. But no, I haven't. I haven't been gaming as much recently, so yeah, just I'm in one of those painting stints right now. Now you have, right? Because you played a game with Dan.
Yes, and I've actually held that miniature that Dan's in his little picture there. So.
Oh, there you go. That's like,
yeah, it was like we showed up, and then we spent an hour gooing and awing over all of his painted stuff.
Nice.
He does a very nice job. It's like the pictures and stuff that you have do not do it justice. Let's just put it that way. When you look at it in person, you're going, wow, okay. As he says, he doesn't paint a lot or very fast, but he does a very good job.
Yeah, I thought on camera it looked pretty good. So
yeah, and it's like we had a lot of fun. It's like we got together and we spent the day playing the American War of Independence, the Land of the Free rules. It was good. I like the rules, and sometimes we're gonna get back and do another game. But I think if you want a real simple game system, go with those.
Cool.
When it comes to American War of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to spend a lot of money on a set of rules, would be my suggestion.
Nice. Well, it looks like we got a lot of people in the house.
Yes, we do. So we're gonna go into Kickstarter Revelations. Universe Escape. Maybe we'll have to discuss things maybe a little later, but yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking to somebody?
Well, well, we got a Kickstarter coming out. There's supposedly, well, phase 1 is supposed to be coming out next month or something like that. I think it is.
Who, you and Dan?
A month from now. Huh?
You and Dan have a Kickstarter coming out?
No.
But who are you talking about?
Battletech.
Battletech Kickstarter's coming out. Okay.
Yeah. So that's coming out. Phase 1 is supposed to come out, I think next month or the month after, by May, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the phase 2 is not supposed to come out probably till November, somewhere in there.
And we may be getting around to a little bit of a Kickstarter discussion tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could
bring
that up.
It might be coming up later.
Cool. Well, shall we get onto the topic?
Oh, yeah. If you want to kick that off.
Yeah, first topic of the evening. Let's see. So as far as rules, are rules and game systems over time, do we feel that they're evolving? Do we feel that they're devolving? If that's a word, I think it is. Or do we feel that they're changing just for the sake of change? And so, I kind of thought that that'd be an interesting subject. I think it's a big subject, actually, because there's a lot of aspects to games and rules. And you could, it'd be interesting to explore each of those, I think. Evolving, devolving, and changing for the sake of change.
Yeah, I think that's a subject of some systems that are pretty popular, I think, are devolving. And then there's other systems that you would have to take a drink if I mention, I think is continually evolved. Well, it's evolved and devolved. Let's put it that way.
Both.
Yeah, at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how you look at it, from a starter aspect of it to versus if you are in the total warfare type aspect.
Mm-hmm. And so what would you consider a definition as to how games are evolving, if we just pick one of the three?
Okay. There's some systems I think have evolved. Let's just start with something I played from the very beginning. It's like Battletech, okay? When it first came out, I don't want to have you to go to a second can tonight. So with that one, it started off as a very simple system. You had the starter box set type thing, or the battle droid rules, and it was very simple when it first started out. And then it went into a little bit of more. It kind of evolved into a little thicker rules and stuff, and it just kind of and then it just kind of plateaued for quite a few years. I'd say 20 years at least, until the Total Warfare book came out, which, that's one of the reasons why I had it handy, was that this rules evolved the standard Battletech game more. It added more stuff to it. And then if you start adding like the tech manual, we're talking thick book, and then you had another book. You're getting the hint here.
Yeah.
Another thick book where it just kept evolving to the point where if you keep throwing the rules at it and you want to use everything, you can spend a lot of time just searching through books trying to figure out why things work a certain way or how to make things work, instead of just using the basic stuff. And I also said it kind of devolved in a way too, because last year they came out with a new set of rules with their box set, which is the one with the Warhammer Marauder on the front of it. And it is a very simplest, went right back to the old way of playing. It's like the very simple rules. They kind of it's like, okay, you guys, if you want to play with all the rules, you can use these, or if you want to go really something simple, go use the other book.
Right.
So
and they gave options to kind of play more than one way.
Yeah. So if you want to go really simple, you can use that. So it kind of devolved it down. They just kind of like, all right, we're going to take all these rules, condense it down into some simple rules, and the common person can just pick it up and just play again without having to think about all these advanced rules and stuff. So that's one example of evolving and devolving over the course of a lifetime of a set of rules.
So if you were to pick a completely different game, totally different situation, like as different of a game as you can think of that you play, and you put it in the context of whether it's evolving or devolving, like how would you, which one would you choose and how would you think?
A totally different system.
Yeah, like Dystopian War, is it still going or it's not anymore?
It's going. Well, it's evolving into another set of rules. It's in some ways, I think it's devolving because it has a fairly thick book to it before, some good rules, pretty meaty, that delved into a lot of different aspects. And I think now, because I've looked at just recently, because Dan was asking, because this week I had the videos out about Dystopian Wars, and people asked, like, well, I need to someday find those rules. And I was like, oh, you can go over to the website, and it's like, go right to their website and find them and then look at them. So, and I was reading through the new set of rules that I guess would be 3.0 set of rules versus the 2.0 or 2.5. And they're totally different. So in some ways, I think they have devolved around to kind of streamlined them in some ways and kind of dumbed it down some.
Right.
So that's another good example of dumbing down of game systems.
What do you think about the concept of changing for the sake of change in this discussion?
And the sake of change, well, we're getting into the Games Workshop mentality here.
That's a natural
changes for the sake of changing. It's like, oh, it's 2 years, we got to have a new rule set. Well, what was wrong with the other one? Well, nothing. We just have to change. And that, in some ways, I think is wrong.
Mr. Freeze. Rock, rock.
Yes.
Knock, knock, Mr. Freeze. You were saying?
Yeah. I didn't think that would happen again, but I guess it does. Wife must be watching a video or something. Yeah, it's one of those, like, you look at Games Workshop, they like to change for the sake of change.
Yeah.
That's just their model, I think. And I'm under the grouping, I guess, would be, we don't need to change things. If it ain't broke, why do you got to fix it? You know, there's some really good systems out there I've seen. It's like, all right, War Machine was another. It's like, I understand why they went from the first edition to the second edition, because they wanted to kind of streamline the rules. But the second edition of like War Machine and Hordes was really good. People liked it, and then they went and turned around and changed it because they went, oh, it's been 10 years since we put out a new set, so we got to change it just for the sake of change. Or I guess it's been about 7 years, maybe 7 or 8. And they changed it, and people just walked away because they didn't want to. It's like, well, okay, the core part of the rules is still the same, but they changed a few things and, you know, messed with how certain rules work and points and stuff like that. And people was like, okay, well, done. And we turned around, and from having a fairly robust gaming week, night, like a Wednesday night, you could go on a Wednesday night and you'd have 30 people or more playing War Machine Hordes, to now you're lucky if you have anybody, all because they changed the rules.
Yeah.
So it can have some very detrimental effects to the hobby. So over to you.
Well, you bring up a lot of good points. I kind of thought of GW immediately as well on the whole changing for the sake of change. But as far as game evolution, I mean, I think there's no question that there's some evolution that's happening, I think, within our hobby, and it has happened over the years. Some people may view certain aspects as evolution. Some people may view it as, de-evolution, depending on what kind of games you like.
Yeah.
I don't have any statistics, but I would be willing to bet, if you look at the amount of board gaming and tabletop gaming that's available now and the amount that's out there, likely there are more hired game designers now than there were 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just because of the way the market has increased. And so more people are probably acting as game designers and looking to do that as a job. And so I'm thinking because of that, you have more heads in there and like more people trying to think of new ways to do things, which means you have evolution over time because certain ideas are great and they stick and then other people do them. Like we've talked about the bolt action random activation, like as an example, then other people, I mean, I'm not saying they're the first ones to do it, but that was one of the first big games I played that actually had that kind of random activation. Then other people do it too. And so I think that in order to meet the market and what people want for gaming, which for many people these days, it is games that you can play in a shorter period of time with your friends where you can paint less miniatures and allow you to be able to pick up and put down more games. And so in order to do that, I think they're devising game mechanics that are suited towards that and are evolving and maybe didn't exist before that. And that I think is good. For miniature tabletop gaming, like an example would be Malifaux when it came out. Like I don't think it's a recent game that I would say is an example of recent evolution. But if I went back, when GW was kind of dominating and games like Infinity and Malifaux were starting to enter in, like lots of competitors, like Malifaux's like, oh, this is a game where you don't roll a dice, you use cards. Yeah. And so not really my thing, but when I did play it, I was like, this is different. Like this is very different. And, like it's an evolution and, whether or not you like it or not is another story. And so I do think there's lots of evolution that's happening. On the same way, so that would be my answer, is that there's lots of game evolution. Now, there are a lot of people that like retro style gaming or the gaming of the past, where you had lots of material, both in background, like Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K, like Rogue Trader, like you'd have lots of background, and even like contemporary 40K as of within 10 years ago, and then also the early editions of Warhammer, both 40K and Fantasy, you would have lots of rules, like thick books with lots of rules. What is it? The Star Trek game that we were talking about, Star Trek with Starfleet battles, like lots of detail, crunchy. Original BattleTech, drink Rusty. The original BattleTech, or even BattleTech today, just crunchy, lots of detail, as much detail as you want, you can go into it. Well, that's not what's happening today with games for the most part. That's against the rule of the day. But some people like that, so they might view not being able to immerse yourself into the world where all of your friends play the same game and you play it for years and you have like a tremendous amount of wealth of rules and background. Lots of people see that going away from that today, the evolution. I see it as two different markets. Like you just see two different, so like the evolution is happening. Like the new rules are coming out. Like, even as an example, like the first edition of Musk and Tomahawks didn't have like randomized deployment like Sharp Practice 2 did. When Sharp Practice 2 came out, now there's other options for deployment in Musket and Tomahawks 2 that's coming out. So there's like an evolution that's happening, right? Now, whether or not, I'm not saying that they stole it from Sharp Practice, but lots of games are messing around and doing interesting types of deployment rules now. Lots of games are doing interesting types of resource management that you might not have seen, might not have been a focus in the past as much. So not to say it didn't exist, but I'm just saying that there's lots of stuff like that. And so, so I think there's both evolution and de-evolution. I think it depends on your perspective as to whether, that exists. I don't think it's all evolution. I think for some folks, there's aspects to gaming that we're losing. And that is viewed as, it's not so much a de-evolution of knowledge within the industry. It's just a choice of not using it because the market, people want an experience that's faster, that you can pick up and put down faster, that you can pick up and paint and put down faster, like that you can just jump from the next thing to the next. And, to some degree, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like there's only so much time and there are some people that don't have time to do like the earlier games that I kind of referenced. changing for the sake of change all the time, always. Anything that's a business has to be changing for the sake of change. I would hope that, like we talked about, I don't think that you should change an edition in 3 years automatically and make everybody buy not only a rule book, but supplemental books for your armies and like every other thing they can get you to buy in every 3 years as a business cycle. I think that's horrible. Like, I really think it's horrible. However, companies, I mentioned Sharp Practice. So like Two Fat Lardies has lots of different game systems. So they can every 2 to 3 years put out a new game system that might be in a new genre, right? And actually offer something new. And so if you do need to exist as a business, which I'm not sure how much they run on a business cycle, how much they do this as their full-time, sort of career at Two Fat Lardies. But I do know that there are companies that have to exist. And in order to do that, you have to continually buy somehow. So just offer new things. Miniatures, that's a great thing. Like, just offer new miniatures, come out with a new faction, do something like that. Offer a new game. And then eventually, when it warrants it, come out with a new edition. Like, I'm not against new editions. It's just not every 3 years, like we were saying.
Yeah.
And so
I would say there's the evolution. You brought up some good points where you're talking about evolutionary aspects of gaming, that there's some minor games out there that have been used for really nice evolutionary aspects of maneuver, fatigue systems, or morale that you typically don't, or combining them all together that you don't typically see in a conventional game like you find from Games Workshop. So they're on the cutting edge of, I'd say, of game evolution. They're
right,
because they can afford to, I think, in a certain way. You always look at it like a battleship. The little guy in a little speedboat, he's the evolutionary guy. He's over there and he's like, oh, I'm gonna try this a little bit, and he can just and whip around really quick and test the waters to see how people are reacting. But you get some company like Games Workshop, the only way they change anything is totally sink the ship and launch a new one. And because to change the battleship course, it takes forever for it to change its course. So sometimes I think it's just easier for them to just sink it than it is to change the course. Yeah,
because there's almost, you get to that point where, sometimes, like you said, you just have to blow it up and be able to move on, because you have no way. You've gone too far into this path, and there's no way to actually make like a major change without actually just starting from scratch.
Yeah, and I think that's where companies like Games Workshop have made some major mistakes along the way. Because you look at their fantasy system. All right, the fantasy system was pretty bloated, heavy, clunky in some ways when it comes to a lot of game mechanics. But people like, oh, I want to move faster. I want something skirmish. I want skirmish. But there's a lot of their core players that played it for decades were the ones that loved the way it was. So when they turned around and all right, open up all the valves, light the fuse in the magazine, and just let it go, and it goes down. And they sunk the fantasy system. And then, all right, now we got to launch this whole new Age of Sigmar. It's like, and then people, there was a whole preful of individuals like, you just sunk my ship. That we're not happy, because it's like that was what we loved. We don't love this anymore. That's why you got games like what was it from Mantic, Kings of War. That's why that became a big company and really started kicking off because of what Games Workshop did. So instead of they could have kept the fantasy systems, right? Here's a compendium of the rules and armies in one book, and they could have just launched that off and said, here it is. If you want to play that, here's the rule book. We haven't killed it. We just we're not going to really support other than here's a compendium rule book. That
you heard they announced that they're potentially bringing fantasy back, right? But it's
but it's going to be a couple years from now.
Yeah, so it's going to be far out, and it's be interesting to know whether it'll be something we can use our old models for or not.
Probably not.
Yeah,
they will not. They will want to use their existing lines that they have because they're phasing out or have phased out about everything they had. Eventually, they're going to get rid of everything that to have totally new lines, forcing people to buy new stuff if they want to be, into the game systems.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing they could have done. It just like, all right, here's the people that we really like. We're not going to alienate them. Here's the old stuff. If you want to still play that way, here's the book. Okay. Mm-hmm. But here's our new shiny new ship that we launched, Age of Sigmar, with all the true. Oh, because they did have some things in there that kind of made it kind of streamlined, which it's like, yeah, that makes sense what they did. That makes kind of sense. But you alienated me so much by how you did it, I didn't want to play it. So make any sense that way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. In some ways, you almost wonder, in order to do some things radically different, they blew it up. But and I agree with you. Like, I guess there were some aspects to get new players in. It was good. But then you kind of alienated the entire old player base rather than just sort of creating like some middle ground. And then I'm not convinced that the whole IP part of the discussion for that, it didn't dominate too, that they wanted to be able to create like elves on sharks and just create things that didn't appear in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. And so like, orcs instead of orcs and like all that stuff.
Because they wanted to copyright everything that they can get their hands on, And sorry, but there's certain aspects that it's too generalized to copyright. You can't copyright orc, you can't copyright space marine, that kind of thing. So that's why it's orcs now, because that's a made up word. So now they can copyright it, or what? I understand why they did it, but it makes a lot of like whatever type thing.
One of the questions I have is like, whenever you kind of have a group of older gamers, which granted, anybody can be part of the Musty Wargamers, whether it be the Facebook page or the shows, and like be, interested in this, but we do tend to probably have an age that's a little higher than like all gamers, like, when you like our average probably. And, so here it wouldn't be out of, the ordinary for us to gravitate towards some of the older games that we kind of like to play in the past and to like some of the meatier, crunchier games. But when you think about it, people are still people. And even though we get things faster today and people like video games, I'm sure that there's probably still people, younger people, that would like games that have more background material, that would have more detail, even if it takes longer, like, within the rules, like to play a game. And so I wonder if part of it is broadening your market, the devolving piece we're talking about, broadening your market to get people you never would have got before because they never would have been interested in wargaming. But then by doing that, you're still leaving new players on the side that might have been interested in the older style game.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wonder about that. I'm not sure what other people think.
I was just going to answer this question. Do you think Alpha Strike was a de-evolution? Yes, I think it was, because you get individuals that wanted to play BattleTech quickly. Get another can, man. So yeah, we got individuals that wanted. I heard it before. Is that I don't want to have to play this game and spend all day playing it to get 5 turns, 6 turns in, when I could just play Alpha Strike and it's fast and it's like 2 hours we got a game in, and it's like, okay, I understand is that for some individuals time is you can't dedicate an entire day. It's like, I can only give you 3 hours, so of those 3 hours we're going to get a 2-hour game in. And I understand why they did it. They did it smartly because it is, you have the classic version, and then they brought out a new version, which was the Alpha Strike. So there's 2 different systems within the same universe. Mm-hmm. So if you were a fluff bunny and you like your we're talking about the fluff. It's like some people just gravitate towards fluff and they delve right in. And it's like, oh, this means this or this means that. And it's like, this only comes from this factory or this nation state only had these mechs or something like that. And they get into it. That is something. So if you're playing Alpha Strike, you can still get into it. If you're playing the classic, you can still get into it. And that was a smart thing that Catalyst did, was that we have the classic, we're not changing it, but we have something that is totally different within the same universe that can get a different type of player. And that's why, like, I look at like Games Workshop, that's where they made a mistake. They could have kept the classic versions of the game and kept it around and still played it. You know, they just bring out a rule book.
Well, like with Alpha Strike, you just buy the book, Alpha Strike, and like you can play it and you get a whole nother group, like you said. And I think I agree. Like, have that, and then also keep but don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Like, don't throw out the rest.
And it's the same universe. You're not changing the universe at all. You get the people that like the fluff. You're catching both. You're catching 2 different kinds of flies with 2 different kinds of bait. Yeah. So, and you're just expanding your potential of customers even more. Which I think with least amount of energy expended. If that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
To me, it does. Okay, we got this very versatile set of rules. The game could be what you want it to be. You can only want to play mech versus mech. You can. Then the mech manual, combined arms, you go for total war. Yes, if you want to play the pen and paper with lots of information and scratching all the bubbles out, like with the classic Battle, you can.
Can you play orcs? Can you play orcs and mechs?
We haven't brought aliens into it yet, but if you want to do a smash up, yeah. I
think that's got Skarnir written all over it.
Yeah.
Orcs in battle mechs?
Yes.
Amazing.
No, bring in the mech boys. All right. Yeah, it's like when Games Workshop started turning, it's ridiculous. Do you have to totally change your rules every 2 years? No. The only reason we do it is just to push you to buy more miniatures, because it's like, oh, every 2 years you got to get, or 3 years, new codex. All right. Oh, the new stuff is like, and the new codex, these miniatures, which are brand new that come out in this codex, are the best, awesome ones. And the ones you used to own, we kind of made them kind of mushy. So if you want to be the new shiny kid on the block that's competitive, buy the new stuff.
I think it'd be interesting to know, on average, how many times you bought the new rules and bought all the new codexes, like, before you stopped doing it. Because in all honesty, we all have been in that experience where the new rules were coming out and we were like, oh my God, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not buying the new rules, and I'm not buying a new codex. I'm not spending $100-something for the game that I already have. And then it comes out and all your friends do it. And then, like, whether you do it right away or whether that time you do it like 3 months later, you always get the new one. Yeah. And then how many editions did you do that for and go through the same experience
cycle
before you finally reached nirvana and exited upwards out of it and elevated?
I've reached a higher state of enlightenment, and I went and shut the door.
I've elevated out of the cycle of GW.
Yeah. I evolved. So, that kind of deal. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of, in a way, it's a abusive cycle, I think, in a way. It's like having an abusive husband or wife.
It's a cycle of suffering.
Yeah. Because who really, you think about it, it's like, who's willingly will do that to themselves? And in every 3 years have to turn around. It's like, hey, I got to spend another $1,000 on GW stuff because I got to get up, because I play competitive, so I have to buy every single codex every 2-3 years. Thank God for eBay. Struggle with the evolution of disposable heroes tech. Okay. Yeah, it was excited that it was getting updated and better layouts, but then was it different and I couldn't get into it and bumped me up. Yeah. The author was a cool dude. That's that's the thing. You get the kind of a cult of personality following a certain stuff. Yeah, it's like Flames of War, or had to do some changes in some ways. It was getting kind of clunky, I think. And in one way is that the nice thing about Flames of War, your miniatures are not outdated. Because a German Panzer III is still a German Panzer III.
That's the thing. Like, you can use that in battle group or whatever, right? Anything that's the same scale, you can use that. That is the one beautiful thing of historical, is that you're not you're not forced into a genre aesthetic. Yeah.
And it's when it comes to the Flames of War, it's like, oh, they went from 2nd edition to 3rd edition or 4th edition. All you had to do is just buy a rule book, and that was it. It was like, spent $20, $30, and that was the, a minor expense, really, when it comes to building the actual armies and stuff. So,
although Dragon Rampant has been the rules answer to that problem, in that they allow you to bring whatever miniature you want.
And that's a good thing, too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like Old Hammer minis are the only place you're going to make a good fortune off of Old Hammers. If you take an individual that likes to buy old miniatures and collect every single one of them.
Needs to complete them.
Yeah, the completionists out there, you drive them nuts as they go to spend the 3 years searching for it. It's like baseball collecting, baseball card collecting. Yeah.
Yeah. Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Yeah, Battle Group. Yeah, that is a. They don't change the rule much. Yeah, that's true. Battle Group's a really good system. I like that. They seem to be more bent on evolving the entire warfare. It's like, oh, we got this area campaign, new book. We're going to bring out this aspect of the war. Got to bring out a new book. That's how they're expanding it. Is just slowly cranking out books. Alpha Strike went too far in simplification. Yeah, that's why, like, Alpha Strike didn't really appeal to me that much. It's like I looked at it at Gen Con, and it's like, that's way towards the aspect of it where it's really simple and quick. Came up with the old system, so I don't see it as a problem of playing that Spirited Battletech. And multiple ways to play in the same universe, brilliant move. Yeah, that comes back to it. So, like I said, you have individuals that you can get both aspects of them into the same game system. Yeah. And let's see what we've got. This one's for you. Yeah, there you go. Stampa. It's like the Stampa is the super. The Stampa would be the 150-ton battle mech for the orcs.
That's actually to my Bizarro evil twin, Plammer. Yeah. That's actually Plammer is actually. Yeah, I saw him recently. We don't get along.
He talks too much.
Plammer.
Yeah, it's like if you get stuck on the treadmill. I think it's more of a hamster wheel. You get stuck on it, and you just never know when you're able to get off the carousel. It's like there's got to be an end to this somewhere. I know.
It's like a hamster wheel that has plastic on both sides, so you can't get out. Yeah,
and it's constantly like turning. And there's got the monkey with the organ grinder going, "Run, you little buggers! Come on!"
And then the white dwarf application is like the little glass water thing that they lick, like with the metal thing that comes down, like they get water out.
Drink more. Come on.
Sugar water.
You love this stuff. You want to run faster and spend more money. Oh, let's see what we got here. Oh my gosh, I just sold off my 8th edition rule book. And magic cards. Oh, I still have. I hate to say this, but I still have some beta and unlimited Magic cards. You know, they do make more.
I'm just resting it.
Resting. Let's see. You said you sold off your 8th edition rulebook and Magic cards the other day. Stopped playing Warhammer Fantasy after I read it. You're talking about Age of Sigmar? I could see the unit, see that the way the game was going, and learned that leaning to big monster units. The hamster wheel crack house.
That's right. That's a good description.
With a big giant white dwarf that they're going, ah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think the biggest problem we have with these larger companies is that they seem to have lost track of innovation in a way. Mm-hmm. They get kind of wrapped up into their own universe, and they don't want to. Oh, okay, 8th edition, got it. They don't want to innovate at all. They just want to be into their little microcosm of how things they think are supposed to work, and they don't want to explore or take any big risks, I think, in some ways.
You know, I often compliment Corvus Belli, but in this discussion, it's interesting. I actually think that Infinity is sort of like in a middle point between this evolution and de-evolution piece. And what I mean by that is, I think at one time, with their automatic reaction order mechanic that's built into their system and their strategy for their skirmish game, that they were really sort of disrupting of the game mechanics that were out there at the time. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, what's this? Like, I can go on my turn. It's not as much as him, but he's still scared of me. Like, he's not just running around the corner in his turn in front of me, like ready to get shot in the face, because he knows I can shoot, just not as much as him. And so like this automatic reaction order that they do in Infinity is kind of brilliant at the time when it came out. And they have a tremendous amount of background, like, that's been built up edition after edition for their universe. And so I'm not an expert on Infinity, but my perception is that although things are tweaked, it's kind of like GW right now, where they'll come out with a new edition, like after I think the second and the third, like some things are changed, but not totally changing the game. It's sort of like a changed edition, but it's still in many respects Infinity, the game that they started. And so in a lot of ways, I think they're a good example of a company that really did something great and innovated. And I don't think they're devolving at this point, but I think that they've got like a really good system that has enough for veteran players to stick with their background and remain immersed in a fairly technical, highly involved rule set. They've not simplified it and dumbed it down. Like, if anything, some people might say it's more complicated, but it's always been a fairly complex game that you had to invest in, and very good for tournaments. And so they're almost, in my mind, a little bit in a sweet spot, because I think they can really appeal to people that like to crunch the game, like really like to sit there and like get it really in depth. They have a tremendous amount of background, so it's not light in the fluff. And then they're kind of innovative and stand apart. Now, they are a skirmish game. They're not mass battle, right? But they still are fairly crunchy in their rules and like having to learn them. And so I don't know. I think they're a company that sort of evolved. They're sort of static now with it. And you know what? It might explain why in the last couple of years they've come out with a couple of other games. They came out with a board game. You know, it starts with an A, and one of my buddies actually did buy it and really likes it. But it's more of a board game style, and it's called Astaria or something like that. It's actually, somebody in the comments if you guys know it, but it exists in their universe. But it's like more simplified, like board game style. And then now they're actually coming out with their first Kickstarter, which actually could lead into a future discussion, which I didn't invest in. I was really seriously considering doing it. But it's basically a board game style miniature tabletop game where you're going to be able to use your miniatures in the greater Infinity game, and they're going to have rules, but you also can buy miniatures from multiple factions in this sort of like, it's not Space Hulk, but it's like a board game style spaceship kind of situation, which is really cool. And I wonder whether this is their evolving piece, like, because maybe they recognized that they're not really changing enough as time goes on, and so they've added these couple of extra things. So I actually think Corvus Belli is a pretty smart company, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I always looked at, right now I look at Corvus Belli as similar to where Privateer Press had been, you know, during the second edition, where they were. Let's look at Privateer Press. Their second edition came out and it exploded because it brought in a lot of good of those skirmish aspects to it, list building, everything that, and you could be competitive with it, and people were really happy with it. And what they did was how they were innovative was that they didn't change the rules. What they changed was keep adding different kinds of units that have different types of. It was almost, if you ever played Magic: The Gathering, was that
only on the computer once. I've never actually played it.
Yeah, so if you ever played, you know how it worked was that you have cards would have synergy with each other. Different types of cards could give you different things, abilities, and that was one thing that Privateer Press did really good. Was synergy of units. It's like, all right, if you have this unit, it will synergize maybe this unit, which is by itself could be kind of mediocre. But by adding this guy, different unit to it, it would make it even stronger. And that was where their innovation was. Right. And that's how the
synergy. Synergy with new models that you could then buy rather than just making you buy a whole new game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they sort of have that still, but it was kind of petered out when the third edition came out. Because I think a lot of people like, oh, I don't want to have to go through learn a whole different way the system works, right? Because they changed how different units work together. Because you got used to, it's like, I even had this problem. It's like, I went to start playing third edition. I was like, okay, I started playing it was like, that's not how your unit works anymore. And I was like, you have to go look at the card again and go, oh, you're right. That's not how it works anymore. It's like, I have to figure out how to my army works now. And a lot of people were like, okay, I'm tired. I'm done type of mentality. And I see Corvus Belli is kind of doing the same thing. It's like, they add new units to the game. That's what they're doing also with the system. And there is some synergy how each one of those work too within the game. And that's similar aspects of it. And I see Corvus Belli is kind of in their golden age right now.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. I actually do think they're in a good spot. I don't pretend to know their market and how well they're doing, but I think it's called Astaria or something like that. But I think they're branching into new games rather than blowing up their main game. They've made it a point to say they're not getting rid of Infinity. They are actually coming out with another edition in the future, and I'm probably going to buy that one to get the background book, because I've actually never bought their rules. Like, you could always download their rules, but I think I'm going to buy their next sort of major edition. They're coming out with new games in order to get new revenue streams rather than just blowing it up and making you buy everything more frequently. They're making it like all in the same universe, so they're expanding their universe at the same time. This game that I'm talking about, that's the board game, it's kind of like an arena, so it like just adds to the culture of like civilization, within their games. And then they're also adding on, there he is, the GM's alcove. And then they're also adding this other game, which is like bringing Infinity into board gaming, which I think is, I think it's a good move. You know, as long as you kind of don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, you don't throw out Infinity proper. You know, which I think they've invested heavily in. Right, it's a flagship for them.
I think that they have a good potential on their hands of really expanding. They can go really deep with their universe. Mm-hmm. They have a potential, I think, of continually adding different factions to their current universe that they have without ever changing the rules per se. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the problem might have, is when they get to that point where they go to a different edition, they may end up having the same problem that Privateer Press had, where you're going to have a massive falling off of your followers if they drastically change it too much. Well,
this will be their fourth. Yeah. So they've done it before, but they tend to wait a little longer than GW has, a little bit longer, but not too much. I mean, they're still kind of on that path. But I'm hoping that by doing these other things they're doing with their products, that they'll actually not do it too frequently.
Yeah. I think they have a good opportunity on their hands to expand their universe with different systems within the universe they have. Themselves. And actually, unlike Games Workshop, it's like, hey, we got a new board game coming out. It's like, oh, you pick it up and go, well, this is crap. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, I've fallen for that a couple times where you buy the book. It's like, well, at least I got some decent miniatures out of it. Everything else that was in the box is might as well just throw in the trash. That's how much it's worth. Other than, and I learned after that, it's like, I look at it and wait for the reviews to come out. It's like, well, if the miniatures look cool, I'll just go on eBay and buy the miniatures instead. Mm-hmm. And save myself 50 to 75% of the actual board, the cost of the box. But
so after all of this discussion tonight, Rusty, and all the comments and everything, when you actually think of the main topic, are games evolving, devolving, or changing for the sake of change? Overall, what would you say?
I think there's an evolution there, but mm-hmm. the evolution, I think, is with the smaller game or companies. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are more innovative, and they're able to take the risk more than the bigger companies. Because mm-hmm. I think as I said before, the bigger the company is, the less they want to steer the ship.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. I think overall, there's no doubt that there's an evolution, but I think that depending on who the gamer is, could really depend also. Like if the market stops doing an aspect of the hobby that somebody liked before, then they view it as not evolution. Like they even though it might technically be evolution, they view it as losing what they like to do. So it's interesting. I do think that game mechanics and rules are evolving. Just the market's changing as well in a way that's leaving some gamers behind.
Here we got one thing about BattleTech is very stable. It's not a constant chase the dragon. It's balanced. Everyone gets to from a large variety I think it's supposed to be pick from a large variety of units, because robots. Everybody likes big stompy robots. And that's the thing, is that I think Games Work or private, not, let's get this right, excuse me, Catalyst Game Systems, it used to be FASA. They found something that people liked, which is a lot of individuals don't realize that with BattleTech, there is a ton of fluff. There are novels galore. There were novels galore before Games Workshop ever put their first novel out. So there's that aspect of it. So they got a lot of long history, and people get into that. And it was the original Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I could see that. Just from what I know a little bit about it, the different houses and like all of that stuff. Yeah, like I could see that.
Because everybody's vying for the seat. Who's going to be the first Star Lord of the Inner Sphere? And we had one. We had a civil war. Everything broke up again. And it was like somebody took their toys and walked away.
It's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Game of Drones instead of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It'd be the original Game of Thrones, but it's called Game of Drones.
Yeah. Game of Throne.
Or the drones, you know, like you know, the robots.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's like video. Oh, my videos. Okay. And then
this way. Rusty, poking you.
Ow. Stop it. I'm a nice guy. Don't poke me in the eye. Yeah, it's like I thought this week I'd be hitting the 1,000 mark for subscribers, but
I was gonna say I saw that earlier that you were like right there.
I was up to 996 2 days ago.
Yeah, you have to wait till you're like 10 over before you really get solid.
And then it dropped down to, it's like I think I'm down to 989 or something again the last time I checked. So
that's the way YouTube is. You need to actually kind of wait just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that. As soon as I hit that 1,000 mark, I was going to take a screenshot and go, "Hey, I finally did it," and then it's going to drop back down again. That was the same way with like my Instagram account. When I hit the 1,000, I took a picture. It's like, "Hey, I made 1,000," and it dropped down.
So, what do you think? What do you think? Do we want to attack our second topic tonight?
Yeah, we could.
All right. Well, are we caught up on comments, or
no, we're not. I was cranking through them. I have this bad habit of picking new games, but I'm sticking with BattleTech. It's like we get caught up in that flashy thing. It's like we're like goldfish. Like, oh, there's what? Oh, okay, got back. No, I made a mistake. That was another.
I got something BattleTech related while you're reading that comment. 1 second.
Okay. And that's why it shocks me when people all their 15 mil because Flame changes editions. Yeah, it's like the miniatures don't change. It's like if you keep your miniatures, if rules can change, you can always find a new set of rules. That's the one thing I like about historicals. It's like the miniatures are good. Once I had them painted, it's like I can keep them. It's like you have miniatures I painted 25 years plus. He's changing editions.
We only drink one drink on the show. Only ever one drink on the show. But I just heard BattleTech, so. Got my Woodford Reserve Costco bottle.
Yeah, you buy it in bulk. That's the way to do it. The only new into about a year at this point. We like rule sets and new classics that drew me in. I couldn't invest into BattleTech before. Yeah, it's like try it. So a lot of people, if you're getting into it new, it's like the cost of. It's like you're talking $15, $18 now for a metal miniature. I used to pay $2, $3 for it. It's like, wow, it drives me. It's crazy. I could not today have the amount of BattleTech miniatures I have today if I started today. It's cost prohibitive.
I mean, there were greasers on motorcycles around when you were first getting BattleTech miniatures, right? Like Cherry Cokes and greasers and like the 50s, right? Isn't that when BattleTech started?
We're talking 80s. Okay. Your junior high days. Okay. You were born in what, 72?
Around there.
Yeah, so you would have been about 14 when it first started.
Mm. Perfect timing to get some math skills.
Yeah. Being first Star Lord is a thankless job. Everyone wants to kill you. Like, better be crazy fellow out in the deep periphery. Yeah, that's where I like. It's like when I play BattleTech, I always talk about playing as a mercenary. I'm beholden to no house or anything. It's like I can just go where I want to work. That's what I like about being a mercenary. Go where the job is. See the galaxy. Burn it down. It's pretty much, yep, it is in space. With mechs.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Robotech didn't do better.
992? Oh, okay.
I'm kind of surprised Robotech didn't do better when that came out.
Yeah.
Because that had a huge following in the media.
Well, it was a cartoon. That was its big thing.
Yeah.
But it never made the transition really good into gaming because the companies that tried to do it sucked. That's rolling out the reserve. Rolled 6 in the sleeves.
You might have to.
The 50s.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Now I get it now. That's good.
Roll it up in his sleeves.
That's right.
I don't like metal miniatures. That is true. I was OCD about chipping. That's a big problem with metal miniatures, especially if you drop them, they go. You can drop a plastic miniature. The other day, I showed a picture of all those orcs and stuff. They were kind of all stacked together, and the guy was like, "Oh, don't break them." It's like they're bulky plastic miniatures. They're fine. You can drop them, and they're not going to happen anything to them.
Actually, the metal ones for Battletech could probably drop and be okay. Are you okay, Rusty?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure you kind of had a moment. You had a moment there.
I had to go check on the aliens that I have in the cupboard.
When you freeze there for a second, I just thought you just had a moment and thought.
Yeah, that's the problem you guys have in Europe is that you don't have a really good distribution like we do. It's like here, if you want to go to Iron Wind Metals, you can walk in and knock on the door, go in and buy the stuff if you want to. If you're ever in, like, was it Ohio or whatever there are? You can walk right in and go to the mecca of plastic or metal. Yeah, it's like if you get into the Kickstarter, use Kickstarter to get a boatload of new minis. That's the way to go. And well, a little crazy on the Catalyst Kickstarter. So you got into the Kickstarter, did you? That sounds like a great topic to talk about.
So let's talk about that.
Oh yeah.
What was do you remember the original Kickstarter talking? Because for those that aren't aware, we've been carrying this whole like Kickstarter topic as a secondary topic for a long time and never getting to it, and we are doing it tonight. And so, what do you think the actual topic was?
Well, if I remember right, the Kickstarter, is it good or bad for the economy, or of what are the pitfalls and benefits of it?
You mean like Kickstarter versus coronavirus? Like which one's better for the economy?
Yeah.
I would say like Kickstarter does not counterbalance coronavirus in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, coronavirus, just go lick windows and doorknobs, you're fine.
Well,
if you're gonna kick,
we do not, if you notice, we're not drinking any Coronas on this channel as a way of keeping everyone free of getting the coronavirus through their computers when they're watching this. So
it was like what you're saying is there's a market for smuggling Battletech goods into Europe. Not that I would ever promote smuggling. We need Han Solo. He could do the European run in 7 parsecs.
So good or bad for our hobby? Is that what it is? Or
yeah. What are the benefits and pitfalls you think of Kickstarter? I've seen both of them myself personally. So
shall I go first on this one?
Yeah,
I'm probably not as good. I'm more of a lurker and observer of Kickstarter. The only Kickstarter I've ever gotten into was touted for a time as one of the worst ones. And it was actually the Creature Caster. Yeah, where it just took a really long time. And literally, like during the Kickstarter, I thought the guy was okay. Like I like the sculptor that actually does the sculpting for Creature Caster originally, and also he did some other sculpting from earlier demons that were with Ultra Forge, I believe is the name of the company. Beautiful work, really talented guy. Guy was really transparent. And during his Kickstarter, when there were some trouble and things, he was still talking about his life and like, just blogging and stuff. And he was basically saying like how he's really into yoga. And he was like, maybe going to start teaching yoga and like going to Europe, even to the East. And people are like lost it. They went like crazy. They're like, I haven't gotten my miniatures yet. You're talking about having a different career, and it was just like insane. And so that was an insane run. I got my miniature in the end, totally fine. Actually, I have it right here. I don't know if I know our channel has alcohol in it, but I mean, you know, this is a kind of a pretty risque model because it is a Slaanesh demon. I love this model actually. In the same way, I love the Bloodthirster that I have from Ultra Forge that he did as well. I think I've shown this on the channel here. I did the diorama, and
that's the one I've been wanting to get.
Yeah, yeah. So have this diorama with Bloodthirster as well. But essentially, I had one experience. It wasn't that great. I waited a lot longer than I thought I would to get it, and I never really got one after that. I did buy a Kickstarter off of someone else for Massive Darkness, and that gave me an appreciation for it because I spent a lot more money on what I bought after. I kind of made like the wrong decision. I actually bought afterwards. I realized how much I wanted it, and I paid more money than I would have if I was on the Kickstarter. I think at the core, as I understand it, Kickstarter is a way to take somebody that doesn't necessarily have the money to produce something, to determine how much support there is to do it, and get you to buy into it, but and realizing that there's risks involved. It's basically like being what we would call a venture capitalist. It's like going on the Dragon's Den, basically saying, hey, I'd like to make a new kind of barbecue sauce that's going to taste better than all of those wonderful tasting barbecue sauces that are already out there. And you should do this and taste it because it tastes amazing, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, you know, there's risks involved. Now, there are some companies that are truly that. They're just these really small companies, and you're spending maybe not as much money, and they have a really low threshold for success. And, you know, it's interesting kind of thing to buy into. And then there are other ones where it's almost like a machine. Like, as much as I love the Cool Mini or Not games, I mean, when they use Kickstarter at this point, nobody questions whether they're going to get it. It's not a tool because they don't have the money or any way to produce this. And so at the end of the day, it really is just in my mind, a bit of a cultural way to purchase their products and a way to do business with them. I don't really see the original principle as at work there. I think I know folks that have had trouble and hadn't gotten their stuff from Kickstarter and lost out on it, had bad experiences. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I really think I don't think it's bad, like flat out bad as a thing. Like I think actually in some situations, it's quite good. It's great to give the ability for somebody to produce something that they couldn't have done before. And it's a way to engage with the people that actually produce it, you know, as a consumer, to support that. I think that's great. There are some situations where people take advantage of it, or at least are incompetent, and then leave you in the dust. And then you're just kind of, it's sort of like, well, you should have known that. I mean, like, there were risks involved. And then that's when people are like, I knew there were risks, but it wasn't supposed to happen to me. And so I think that's potentially bad. So at the end of the day, I'm not a huge person that supports Kickstarters, so I'm not sure I'm the absolute best person to comment on this, but that's my sort of spiel of somebody that has chosen not to for the most part. And so how about you?
Well, as an individual I've supported my hand share of Kickstarters over the years, and I have been one of those individuals that has been burned badly. My very first Kickstarter may sound interesting, is that the first Kickstarter I ever supported was way back in the day when Kickstarter first started. Was the now I'm having a brain lock. What's the game? Yeah, must be upstairs. You know, the tile game where you got wood, brick, sheep, wheat.
Oh, Catan?
Yeah.
That was on Kickstarter?
Yeah. There was a Kickstarter for the tiles, where you'd have a little hexels. It had a little thing. It was made of plastic. Then they had magnets in them, so you could put your little tile in it and click them together. That was the very first Kickstarter I ever did. And that was, 10 years ago, maybe, somewhere in there. And it took longer, but the guy was like, oh, this is what's going on. Like you said, your first one, every day was like, oh, here's the update, what's going on. And the longest thing was waiting for the stuff to ship from China. It took forever.
Right.
Because if you remember, they had the dock worker strike way back in the day. They had a dock worker strike in LA. And
was that like in the 1920s?
No, this was about maybe about 8 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And they finally, it got made, everything was put in, it's shipped, it's all in the container, and we're waiting, and all of a sudden there was a dock strike. The unions said, oh, we're not going to ship anything, we're not going to unload any ships until we get more pay. And it was all set in California for half a year or so, on a container ship. And the guy's like, I have your stuff, we're just waiting for it. And finally the strike ended, and it got unloaded, and it was within, it's all right, those of you that did the biggest one, you get yours first, and then it went down the line. So, and the guy showed videos of bagging everything up and shipping it out and everything, and then he sent personal letters out. We got it. Eventually it came, and it's like, hey, it's great and everything. So by the time we got around to, it's like, we've used it once, because we used to play Catan all the time. The kids did, because the kids loved Catan. And then after that, was used it a couple times, and then it's like, well, we haven't played Catan in forever today. So, but that was my very first experience with it, and it's like, well, I don't know, that was like worth the time and effort to do that. And then obviously, about the Blood Plunder ones.
Yeah, that you did those. Those were probably successful. Those were
those were very successful.
Yeah, and
it was. The amount of stuff you got from the Kickstarter was well worth the money you put into it. Because obviously you get more back for being a backer than you did if you had to go buy it yourself. Because it was like 40%, 50% off equivalent sometimes.
Right.
So I had those. I backed the BattleTech one, so a lot of the guys on here supported it. And we're still waiting. So we're supposed to be getting some stuff here soon. So
BattleTech, you say?
Yeah.
I said BattleTech. You have to drink this time. You still have your drink, don't you?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being cheated here.
I sip. I don't glug.
You're a gentleman.
Yes. Thank you.
I glug like a thug.
But I did get burned. Was the Spartan Games when they did their Kickstarter. It's like, all right, Dystopian Wars, we got a Kickstarter happening. I went through it, and I was like, oh, I have to get it. It's like seeing what they had for all the different factions and stuff. And it's like, oh, it's like, I got to get this. And the whole biggest reason I went and supported the Kickstarter was that the Prussians were going to have a massive iceberg carrier. A carrier that was on an iceberg. So it was supposed to be freaking huge. And I seen the darn thing at Gen Con. They're like, this is what's on the Kickstarter. And it's like, oh, I have to have this. I'm backing this and everything. And when it came out, and then it's like, oh, we're getting released. And they started releasing it to the highest backers first. So those guys got their stuff. And all of a sudden, crickets. I'm like, man, I should be getting my stuff here soon. Supposedly everybody's got shipped out. And then the next thing you know, company closed. So nobody, other than the handful of backers at the biggest level, got their stuff. Everybody else got screwed.
I don't remember what year that was, but I remember distinctly you and I messaging each other about that.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that?
4 years ago.
Yeah, because we were talking about that back and forth. I remember that. Yeah.
So that just bugged the heck out of me. And that kind of was like, I'm not going to back it. Then Blood and Plunder. And it's like when you got a friend of mine, it's like, we're doing this Kickstarter. Okay, I got to support my friend. So and I got involved with that, and that's why I helped paint stuff up. But that was my experience with it. And let's see, what was it? Thought we had a. It's like there is some stuff around that happens at with Kickstarter. I know that I almost backed the Mantic, the very first Mantic one, when they did theirs, and there was a whole bunch of, and there was kind of some controversy with that because they had some of the backers that were getting really testy and angry, and it's like they expected their stuff immediately when there's delays, and that's the thing about.
Actually, that's an interesting point you bring up, because I have no experience with Mantic, but my understanding is, in the same way that CMON uses Kickstarter as their primary delivery, there was a time, at least, if not still now, that Mantic was known for that. Like, that was their whole thing. But then there was times when people would get retail before they would get Kickstarter in some situations.
Yes. And that was the biggest problem, was that it was out on retail before the backers got their stuff. Right. And people are like, well, I backed this. I should have mine long before it's out on retail. And so there was the biggest controversy, and there was a lot of testy individuals about that. Yeah. And one way I can see why Mantic was like, oh, we need cash flow now, but you got to, people have backed the stuff, it's like you're the shareholders basically equivalent of it. It's like you got to pay your shareholders, make them happy.
So to me, like, I guess when we talk about whether Kickstarter is good for gaming, I don't feel like the most educated person on this, but I see in my limited knowledge that there's two big things here where you could have big companies that use it as a sales mechanism. Yeah. And so it's there, like, you can put yourself out there. It's a way to sell your product. People are looking at it. It's like you have your miniature gaming hobby and all these people fall within it. Why not insert yourself in there to be able to sell? And then you have Kickstarter as maybe the original principle of, like, I'm a little guy and I want to produce a set of rules. I want to produce a set of miniatures. I want to produce just one line of dwarven old hammer. Like, one of the things I do know about is that there's people that do old hammer sculpting, and they'll just create like 20 miniatures of like squats, like basically squats the way they looked 30 years ago, but today, like new variations. And I'm just going to put them out there, and maybe I'll throw a couple of stretch goals of like Amble or something from Rogue Trader or something like that. And it's really small and contained, and like they're a small operation, and by you doing like investing, you're able to give them the ability to do this. And so is there a between? Like, is that it? Is it like the entry level person that doesn't have the money and the huge kind of company now? Like, and then what's in between on that?
Well, you have the smaller ones. It's like, I think it was the one picture I sent you, the mushroom people today. That was from a Kickstarter. That was, like you said, somebody that wanted to put some small things out and just test the waters and see if they could do it. And that was a small company. Then you had Mantic with theirs, producing massive hordes of miniatures. And I think that was their way of creating new lines. Right. So that's their way of doing it. And then I look at like Blunt Plunder, the guys from Firelock. Every new line they put out has been a Kickstarter. Every new system they put out has been a Kickstarter. It's their way of getting people involved with it and influx of capital, I think, to build it and then go from there. Right. Because now it's like, you look at like Firelock, they have an existing system that's going pretty good. It's kind of popular. But then they had their oak and iron system. It's like, oh, we're going to come out with the small wooden ship battles. So we're going to do a Kickstarter. So they were kind of a small to mid-sized company now that is now producing stuff because they're using Kickstarter. And I think that's kind of their market way of attacking the market, is that every time they're going to expand into a new line of miniatures, I think they're going to do a Kickstarter. Yeah. That's just the way they culturally as a company have engaged their market. So for them to
set it up differently would be a big change.
Yeah.
Well, like Corvus Belli, we were talking about earlier, they've never done Kickstarter ever. And they're now literally said, this is our first Kickstarter. Like, we're doing this as a Kickstarter. They've decided to do this board game with metal miniatures that you can use in the Infinity game, but they've decided to engage it as a Kickstarter. And I guess, so in some ways, I don't know what to call Corvus Belli. Like, I don't know, like, I call them a big company compared to some, but they're probably more of a mid-sized company compared to others. Like mid-size?
I'd say they're on the larger size of mid-size, I think.
Yeah. So as a mid-sized company, you know, that has to pay payroll and, you know, isn't coming out with a new edition anytime soon or whatever. Maybe they figured, like, well, this makes sense. Like, if we're going to go branch out into a new way of gaming for our company, let's see whether people want it or not, right? And if they'll actually support it.
I think that's a way to test the waters. Is that, all right? We're willing to put out a new system or a new board game or something of that nature, and you are capable of saying, all right, we got this. We're going to test to see how much support we have. It's going to go on a Kickstarter. We know that it's going to cost us this much probably to produce it. If we get this many backers, they will fund it. So if you got this many backers, that it's viable. It's made. It costs the company really nothing other than time to produce it.
Yeah,
people made it for you. And then if you get more sales off it and it grows from there, well, so much the better. But it's a way of not killing a company without, you know, going into a new area and having major expense to go with it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at Kickstarter now. That's how a lot of these mid-sized companies are doing it. You probably never see like Games Workshop do something like that.
Right.
I'm surprised that Mantic is still doing it, because I look at Mantic now as probably a large company. So,
you know, I guess I'll have the perspective, because I don't really want to get into a lot of new games in a lot of ways. I'm trying to do my best to avoid games because I'm still getting into new games, even though I don't want to. I'm more interested in miniatures in some ways. And so in some ways with this discussion, I'm almost like thinking, like, I haven't looked at anything with Kickstarter since I can remember. I'm almost like thinking, like, I should probably look into some of these companies that want to produce miniatures, these smaller sculptors, you know, that are producing high quality metal miniatures that I like and things like that. That's probably what I should do. Like, I know there was actually one that I really quite liked, and it was really close to doing was there was a gentleman that actually produced a series of undead miniatures that were really old school style miniatures. Did I ever talk to you about those? They're actually like a big skeleton army of like really Renaissance, like looking old style skeleton miniatures. They weren't exactly old GW, but they were like almost like the kind of skeletons you would see in some of the old Renaissance style artwork. And have you ever heard of those?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe somebody in the comments knows what I'm talking about, but I almost got into it and I ended up not doing it. I thought they'd be a really cool undead army for Oldhammer. But yeah, in some ways it makes me want to look to see what's out there just to support folks and what they're doing. But I'm not really interested as much in the bigger kind of companies and like what's being produced. I'm more interested in more the collectible kind of stuff.
Yeah, I always look at you see a lot of these small things, like when you go to Gen Con and you're going through the vendor hall and you see these small little companies and they might have one or two lines, let's say related to, say, burros and badgers or something like along those lines.
Yeah, exactly.
You got some, they might have 20 miniatures all together in their line, and they got their little booth and they're showing things off. It's like, this is what we have. If that interests you, you say you could use it for these games or stuff like that. They may not even have rules. They're just showing off their or else I've seen this before where you have 3 or 4 different small companies will band together and have a booth just for them together, and they'll
Right.
have, it's like this corner's this, they're this company, this one's this company, this one company, and it's like they may have 4 displays of stuff, and they're just showing stuff off. They try to get interest, and they may not even gone through Kickstarter, or
Right.
they have Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter was so small that it never attracted any attention other than a handful of people to make it viable to actually fund it.
Actually, I found the company while you were talking, what I was talking about, and it's called Skull and Crown Miniatures. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they have a line called Triumph of Death, and I'll actually just. Do you mind if I share my screen for a second here?
Yeah, go ahead.
And your entire screen. Okay. Can you guys see that? Can you see that now? Are you able to see my screen?
Are you sharing?
It says I am, but maybe I have to click on it. There we go. Share. Sorry. And now, do you see that? No?
Yeah, it's trying to. Right now, there we go.
Okay. Do you see it there?
Yeah.
So this is actually, I think, Command, but you see these old cool metal skeletons. They don't really look like old GW skeletons, but it's a Kickstarter. They've done Kickstarters before. They're always expanding on it, and it's really cool stuff, like old metal skeletons. For those, I know we have a lot of.
That reminds me of a lot of the stuff from the 80s.
Yeah. They made a whole line. Actually, if you look at it here, actually, I could just show it. They have all of these styles. So each one of these poses, they have guys like with arrows. He actually had like old paintings where they showed skeletons with shields and these like arrows. And then they have like the guys with the halberds and different poses. And they have, I'm not even like halberds going forward, and they have like personalities. They have archers. They have like all kinds of stuff. But I kind of was quite into them, and they were using Kickstarter as a method. They even have like almost the old GW Empire style hats on some of them. You see that there?
Yeah.
And then armor on some of them. They're really cool looking, though, in my mind. That's Skull and Crown Miniatures. That sort of, at the time, I kind of made a decision not to get into it, but I kind of regretted it afterwards. Like, I think they're really nice. I'll probably one day.
So it says $15. I was trying to read that there. How many would you get for $15?
In this case, what it says is skeletons marching open-handed with javelins and coffin-lid shields. Perfect rank and file troops, which can also be used for pike and troops marching. 6 skeletons marching, open hand, 6 javelins, 6 coffin shields. So you get 6 for $15 of metal miniatures.
Or is it 18?
No, I think it's 6 for 15.
Okay.
When you think about it, that's a little less than $3. That's like 2 something a miniature, metal miniature.
Yeah.
That's pretty reasonable, I think, for metal miniatures. But in any case, I'll stop sharing here. Hang on. So yeah, like there are some cases where I really like to sort of support somebody. I could see myself supporting Skull and Crown Miniatures at one point. They do a lot of cool stuff.
I could see something like that where if you had a large army and you want to add a little different flavor to it, you know, you buy a few of these different kinds of miniatures and just toss them into the rank and file to break it up the monotony.
Yeah.
And that's one thing is like if you had Kickstarters like that, and it's like, oh, is it Beasts of War? Now what's their name? On Tabletop is what they changed their name to. They always do something of a show where they, you know, what's currently in Kickstarter, what they think is cool, and they always share some Kickstarters from here or there, different kind of. And it's kind of nice is that you see some stuff is like, oh, I might actually think about backing that. A lot, I'd say 99% of the time now, I just like, nah, okay, maybe next time. But there's lots and lots of different Kickstarters all the time, because every once in a while I'll go peruse what's on Kickstarter and just see what pops up, to see what's new, exciting,
right?
That I might consider eventually backing another project here or there, because I know that Blood and Plunder probably will have another Kickstarter within another 6 months or so. So who knows what I might.
Well, and if you've had a good experience, that gives you confidence, right?
Yep, it does.
So what's going on in the comments regarding Kickstarter?
Oh, that's it. All the Kickstarter comments have gone through.
Actually, Cranky Old Wargamer mentioned earlier that he loved Drop Zone. Actually, I went all in on Drop Fleet Commander, delayed a lot, killed my interest in the game. Yeah, I actually think Drop Zone is one of the few games. I have a buddy of mine that I actually got into Drop Zone with, and we both bought a core set, and we said, I'm going to give you my, like, whatever side you want to do, and I'll take the other side, and we doubled our investment. And then he had some life situations where he couldn't paint it up right away, and then I kind of fell out of interest, and I just sold it off completely. And but I kind of regretted that, because I actually thought that was they saw a really amazing niche with Epic, and the lack of Epic. They kind of there was a space there at the time, and they went in, and I think they did an amazing job. And I have a lot of respect for the person that created that game, because my understanding is the creator of the game did all the original sculpting, as well as the game mechanics, and just did everything from the ground up. And I think that's like really commendable. Like that guy just did everything.
Yeah, I've actually talked to him at Gen Con, and he had his own booth. He had a big display of everything, and he just happened to be standing there going, do 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 do. And it was like that's when it first came out. I went and spent probably half an hour talking with him. And then a certain individual. That was
when the security came after that?
No, an individual that was doing interviews that was on we had on our channel, like our 3rd episode. He came along and decided to do an interview. So I just kind of stepped out of the way.
Well, I know we're kind of getting a little low on the comments here. We're kind of at the end of this, but you mentioned Gen Con, and we were actually talking about Gen Con this year, and I'm wondering if we could poll our commenters. How many people have been to Gen Con or are considering going this year? Because we were talking about going. Like you said, you're going this year, and I was thinking of maybe going as well. And I'm just kind of curious how many people that are watching right now are actually considering that. TikTok.
Well,
let's see how many people are answering.
One thing I need to put out and say if we're actually officially going this year. I need to put in and get my ticket officially, because I do have the golden ticket I got last year. That's
the thing you got out of the candy bar, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like
right. you were a winner.
Yeah.
Like, don't eat the blueberries.
So. Yeah, you got that, right?
Yeah.
So isn't it usually the older guy that has to like say to the younger guy, I'm going to take you to Gen Con. You got the golden ticket. That's like the Willy Wonka thing, right? It's the opposite here, right?
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, here we go. We got Dan.
Okay.
Never been, but love to go. Let's just say it takes a chunk of change, because the biggest expense is the room.
Okay. Well, I've got permission. So I'm able to go. The wife has said, yeah, absolutely. If you want to do it, just go ahead. And I've just kind of been thinking about summer plans, but I have to actually go and do the work of just signing up and doing it, just paying for it. And so yeah. I think I'm thinking that I'm definitely going to go.
Yeah, it is Willy Wonka. Yeah. It is an interesting experience. There's been many years where I never left the gaming area. We spent 4 days playing BattleTech and not once leaving the gaming area. And there's been other years where it's like, oh, I'm not going to play BattleTech every single day. I'm going to go find a different game and then go play another system or another system here. They're just kind of, you know, explore out, play a historical or something. And then there's been other years where it's like, you know, this 4-hour session, I am not going to play a game. I'm going to the vendor hall. I'm going to wander around. And then after 4 hours, they're like, I haven't even made it halfway through the vendor hall yet. So
wait, what's the kid's name in Willy Wonka? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember. It's been years since
they're mentioning Willy Wonka, because I think you are definitely the kid in this situation that got the golden ticket, because you have more hair than I have. So I could be the old man, and you actually are the kid with the golden ticket.
I got the ticket. I'm gonna play. Where's the blueberries?
I think that it was like a room with like 4 like old people in bed saying, "Oh, we got the ticket." So
Grandpa gets to go.
I think whenever we have whiskey, I always say I'm going. Like I'm gonna go. Definitely, I got to do it. But I have talked to my wife, and like I've got permission, so I just have to do it. And so I have to look into just making the arrangements. I have no reason not to, really. I've had permission years ago to go out to Salute. And my wife, I was going to go to like the British Museum and make a trip of it and just go alone, like, you know, and just do like this sort of trip that I wanted to do. And I didn't do it. So I think I should just go to Gen Con this year. Oh, Charlie. Everybody says it's Charlie. So you're Charlie this year. You're also looking down and not looking up. I'm not sure if you're just thinking about something or okay, just making sure you're okay.
I am sending a message.
Okay, I'm making sure you're okay. So I should probably go this year. I'm interested in doing some of the trading there, like seeing what's going on, like maybe get a game in. But I'm more like I'm actually also, you know, like half of what I do is historical and half of what I do is not historical. And so I see going to Gen Con, I'm probably wrong, but I see going to Gen Con as primarily feeding my non-historical side. Because if I wanted to really do historical, I'd go to like Historicon. And I really would like to do that too at one point. But I guess I could see feeding my Marvel Crisis Protocol interest by going to also Gen Con this year, because that's sort of, they released last year, like, and I would imagine they'll have a presence this year. I think that'll be fun, like do all the see all the Marvel stuff that's coming out.
I've done Gen Con, Origins, Historicon, Little Wars over the years, the last 20-something, 5 years, 30, almost 30. I guess it's almost 30 years in some cases, but it is. I guess 93 was the first time I went to Gen Con. But it is, having seen how some of these have grown. I remember when Gen Con, you know, when it was up in Milwaukee and it was small, you didn't have the crowd you got today, where it sells out. And you go to the Saturday and you can barely move the crowd. There's so many people. And you're like looking at these individuals like, wow, it's like this first time this person ever came out of their house. But it is an experience.
So you were probably watching Friends, like in the hotel room at night, like when you first went to Gen Con. I mean, Friends was probably on the air, like Chandler and Monica.
Yeah, I think it would.
Rachel and all that stuff. I mean, like you could, gosh, man, that's.
Yeah, you were just a little kid back then.
I was like. I don't know what I was doing back then. What am I going to be when I grow up?
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like if you plan on going, if you plan to go to Gen Con, it's one of those things where you got to plan in advance and get your reservation in for a hotel that's fairly close, but not too close. One year we stayed right outside one of the close hotels where you just walk in. All the time. So it was like 200, almost $300 a night. That was pretty expensive night for everybody put together. And it was like, we're not doing that again.
Well, what is the What days of the week is that, Gen Con? Thursday through Sunday?
It's a Thursday through Sunday.
Oh, maybe we should do some sort of Thursday thing if we're both there.
I'll tell you in a second. It is. They've gotten to the point now where they are starting stuff on Wednesdays, but I'll tell you in a second. 2020 Gen Con is July 30th through August 2nd.
Okay.
And
I wonder, we'll have to see. Maybe we can do something live. Is it possible to do something live at the hotel? Like kind of do something live there?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
If
Musty Gen Con.
If typically a lot of times I just record, like this last time, a couple times I just record stuff and then upload it whenever I get back to the hotel or get away, because cell service basically sucks at the convention because everybody's using their cell phone. It's like almost impossible.
Right. Well, maybe we'll have to do some stuff. Like if we're both going to be there, that'd be kind of fun.
Oh yeah, here we got Todd said this year he's going. I have almost every single time I stayed is at the airport hotels, the hotels around the airport. That is about the best price, and it's an easy commute. You're talking 15-minute drive to 20 minutes to get in there, and you're talking $20 a day for parking, $25 somewhere in there. And it's not a problem Wednesday, Thursday, Friday getting parking. Typically Friday starts to get a little hairy because you're still dealing with people that work downtown,
right? And
then people going to the convention. But Saturday you have to get there almost a little dark early to get in and get a close parking spot, or else you're walking,
right?
It's Saturday is sold out, always sold out.
Well, I'll have to look into it. I think I'm most likely gonna go.
Okay, so we can do that. If we can figure out where we're staying and get a hotel that's nearby, then we can maybe do a link up someplace in there.
Yeah, we'll see. We might even just do a walking around, hanging out kind of thing too, right? Just seeing what's going on, look at it too.
Yeah, the Uber in. Yeah, we have one big vehicle. We stuff everybody in.
Clown car?
Yeah, clown car. You're like, I wish you guys weren't so big.
Yeah, I've never transported miniatures for like tournaments and through planes and stuff. I don't know how that would go, whether we wanted to do like an Age of Magic game or something.
Yeah, it's I've never, well, back when I used to host games, it was a pain to haul your miniatures in and out.
Yeah, I'd likely not want to fly with them, to be honest. No. I'd probably just go there, hang out, shop, check it out, maybe see what's going on, maybe do some demos.
Yeah, it's like do a YouTuber hangout. It's like we pick a day where we're going to be in a certain spot.
Yeah.
And then do a meetup. That's the big thing, is like do the big meetup and everybody get together, and then typically go down someplace and then you have an eat out someplace. Go to one of the restaurants near the area and then
musty drinks.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah, we went to this there's a restaurant downtown that was nearby. One night we had my first Kobe steak and my last Kobe steak. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, it was good. I was like, the price was like, no. It's like, I'm just like eating this. How many miniatures am I eating right now?
Taste versus price. You have to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
Where is the taste of this versus the price? How full am I? How much more do I want to eat?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll have to think about that. I think that's an interesting segue, like, because see how many folks that actually would want to, that's actually thinking about going, we could also meet up with. That'd be great. And we could also shoot some video.
If we talk about it again on your channel next time we stream towards the end, if we actually do this, because you have your people, we got to have a lot of followers that on both our channels that are probably going to go one way or the other. So
Yeah,
you could
no,
end up with a
absolutely.
large crowd meeting up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know a Salute. Like I follow a lot of the British channels and UK stuff, and Salute actually has quite a bit of people that go to it. And so I have no idea how many people. I have a lot of viewers from the United States on the channel, but it's funny because I probably, considering the size of the UK audience on my channel versus the US, I probably have a lot more people that comment from the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of friends in the US, don't get me wrong, that are miniature gamers, but there's probably, given the populations, there's a greater proportion that participate from the UK, which is interesting. So I'd love to see folks that actually would stop down from the USA side of things to one of the big conventions. That'd be great.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to actually do a meetup, because I've done meetups before with other YouTube channels before as a follower. Meet up with other individuals and say, hey, how's it going? You know, like last year, mini wargaming guys, or what's his name? Was at Gen Con this last year. Met up with him. So
fellow Canadians.
Yep. You Canucks
are
everywhere.
You're talking about Matt, like the
Matt from Mini Wargaming.
He's one of the original, one of the owners.
Right. We spent some time talking with Matt from Mini Wargaming.
Seems like a really cool guy, actually.
Yeah, he's just like any one of us. He's like, hey, you guys are gamers, all right? Yeah, he's like, and you find out you guys oh, you got a YouTube channel? You know, it's like, hey, so how's that going? Blah blah blah. So he's
not as good as yours.
No, it's like, you guys gain more people in one day than I have for channel followers. All right, it's like I'm a nobody.
No, that's pretty amazing what they do, but I'm not sure that I want to do that actually.
And I think about when I started watching Mini Wargamers or Mini Wargame, is that they had, I think, less than 2,000 followers when I first started watching those guys. And now it's like, I don't know how many they have now, but you just think about how many. It's like some of these people is like, even like Nick. It's like you look at Nick, he's like, I remember when Nick had less than 200 followers when we were watching him. Now look at him. So we've been around for so long time.
Nick Beer has really increased. I started watching him when he was below 500, and he was into Eldar, and I was into Eldar, and you were into Eldar. Like we were like all into Eldar stuff, like for 40K. And I am amazed. He's put a lot of good work and effort into his channel for sure.
And it was Eldar that brought me to both you guys. So
because we were all watching it now. Look, it's funny how things change over time. He's not really as much into the Eldar stuff. I haven't seen that much Eldar stuff on your channel. The only stuff I've ever done is my old Hammer stuff that is some Eldar, but I don't really have any Warhammer.
It's the same way.
40K stuff either.
The only thing is just old Warhammer stuff. We did I did the last 40K game I played was with Eldar. So I like Eldar, just it's not my focus.
Yeah, the new edition. Well, anyways, I think we've kind of exhausted the Kickstarter topic at this point, and we've had an interesting segue into Gen Con, which actually that was a good thing to bring up because I am kind of interested in doing that, and it's going to require some planning.
Yes, it is.
I got to get a mask. I got to get some hand sanitizer and stuff if we're going to be doing the traveling and everything.
Actually, with the coronavirus going around, it might actually keep the attendance down.
I got to get my ticket now.
Yeah.
All righty. Well,
okay. I think that's great. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. So I guess
thanks
we'll sign off
everybody for
here.
stopping by as usual.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
If anybody wants to join us, either live or watching this afterwards, just let either Rusty or myself know. And you're also, we're interested in having people join us as well. We do enjoy that.
Yep. So if you want to join us, the next time we're going to be over in your channel in 2 weeks. And that should be spring break around here. So I'm free, as always. And so we'll be on your channel. We'll come up with some interesting topic. And if you guys want to join us, just let us know. It's like sometime we got to get Dan. I see how his internet works. Maybe we'll get Dan on here as a guest.
Come on, Dan.
You can do it.
You got to join us. We convinced you to get a YouTube channel, and now you have to go live.
You got to do it. All right, everybody. It's been nice talking with you all night. Great topics and interaction with everybody. So we will see you in a couple weeks over at Palmer's channel. We'll see you all then.
Heresy Productions.
And we're gone.